right, welcome everyone. Culinary herb gardening is our topic tonight. So if you have a chance, find the chat box and type in your name and your city. We want to see who's here. We want to find out where you're from. So go ahead and do that. And looks like we've got some folks from Modesto, Jackson, Palmdale, Keys, Fremont. So we've got a couple folks signing in from the Bay Area. Welcome. A couple folks from Oakdale and Patterson. Thanks for joining us. We've got Riverbank. All right, we're checking off all the Stanislaus County boxes. Somebody who is in Yosemite Park. We've got Turlock, Bishop, all the way in Bishop. Thanks for joining us. All right, so we're going to be getting started here.
Valley Ventura.
So who are the UCCE Master Gardeners? My name is Ann Shellman, and I am the Master Gardener Coordinator for Stanislaus County. And we have a group right now of about 55 people who were trained for 19 weeks in the basics of gardening. It was like a 19-week-long gardening boot camp. And so these folks are here to assist you using research-based information on home horticulture, pest management, and sustainable gardening practices. And you can see here somebody helping a customer at our window. And as you know, right now, we don't have the same kind of activities going on. So we're going to be doing more classes for you. But you can still ask us questions anytime via email or phone. And we'll have that information for you a little bit later. I want to tell you about more classes that we have coming up. It may be hard to believe because your tomatoes are just barely starting to get ripe or you've been eating them, but we're already thinking ahead, like most of us gardeners do, for fall vegetable gardening. And so we're going to be giving a class in August all about how to get ready and the different crops that you can grow in fall. In September, we'll be having a guest speaker from the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. She's been gardening for over 30 years and she adores pollinators, and she's going to have a lot of great tips for plants that pollinators love. Now you may be thinking, wait, you just did a class about native pollinators, and that focused a lot on the actual insects and other creatures that you can try to attract to your garden. This is going to focus more on the plants and their water needs and getting them established. And then in October, we'll be giving a class on water conservation. So how can you still have a beautiful garden and save money too? So please stay tuned. And I'm sure most of you are already signed up for the Stanislaus Sprout. Did you know we are also on Facebook and Twitter? Please follow us there. And this is our email address at the bottom. And all of you should have received a packet with the slideshow, so you can always refer to that later. And I'm excited that we started a YouTube channel just 2 months ago. So if you missed any of the classes that we already had, you can tune in there. Please subscribe so that each time we post a video, you can get a copy. And also, isn't this good little girl cute? She's one of our Master Gardener Coordinator's granddaughter. She loves to garden. And you can help us grow too by answering a survey in 3 months when you receive it. It's going to come from the statewide Master Gardener program. And it's going to tell us how we're doing and how we are making a difference in our community. So please be sure to fill that out. All right, now it's time to meet our Master Gardener speakers. So I'm going to hand it over to Terry and Ro.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Terry Pellegrini. I'm a new Master Gardener. I have been an avid gardener and herbalist for many, many years now. I'm really excited to be here to share my love of herbs with y'all.
Hi, I'm Ro. And when someone said culinary herbs, because I like to cook, that was right up my alley. So I hope that you'll see maybe a new herb that you haven't used before, or at least figure out how to grow your own herbs. So what we're going to do right now is quickly go through our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between herbs and spices, because people get that confused. How do you take care of your herbs? the life cycles, because they're annuals and perennials, and sometimes that's important depending on where you live, and sometimes it's not real important. Garden design, where should you put your herbs, and how to harvest and storage them.
So what is an herb? An herb is the green part of a fragrant plant, sometimes a flower as well, that we use to put into our food, beverages, maybe some teas. These can be, as Rose said before, these can be an annual or a perennial, and they're a wonderful addition to any meal. Now, what is a spice? There's a difference between an herb and a spice. I told you before the herbs have, or the leafy green parts, or sometimes the flowers of the plant. Well, a spice is usually the root, the seed, or the bark of the plant. Some examples of a spice are nutmeg, cinnamon, and ginger. Ginger is also a wonderful spice. All right, we got a quick pop quiz for you. Can you name an herb that is also a spice? Go ahead right now and type your answer in the chat box.
All right, great to see everybody typing into the chat box here. I see one answer. So go ahead and type your answers.
They're all too smart.
So an herb would be a spice and it'd be an herb and a spice because you would use all the different parts, right?
Right.
Let me know when you're ready, Terry.
Anytime.
Okay.
Again, you guys are too smart for us. Cilantro. The leaves are an herb, and the seeds are a spice, also known as coriander.
Oh, and look, somebody asked if nasturtium would qualify. That's a good question.
I'll have to figure that one out.
Look into that one.
Yeah. Okay, what does your herb need? It's like all plants. It needs sun. Some of it needs a little bit of shade. In the Central Valley, our sun may be too much for most herbs. So you just have to kind of decide, start figuring out if you haven't grown herbs before. Regular, moderate, or little water. There are different needs and good drainage. And what do you need to give to the herbs so that they grow and they stay around and they help your life? Compost in the ground, correct planting and spacing, light pruning, harvesting correctly, and know the life cycles. And we're going to go into that in just a little bit. Now, you can plant herbs from seeds. If you do, after you've worked that compost into the soil, if you're planting in the ground, make certain you check the package. It'll tell you how deep you need to plant the seeds. If you're going to do a transplant, and that's, especially if this is your first herb gardening, that's an easy way to go. And I'm going to cover my computer keyboard right now so I don't get a mess everywhere. But I did bring with me a transplant. This is a fennel, one of Anne's favorites. I'm going to get this little puppy out. Oh, he's not going to come. Anyway, this would all come out. Gently pull it out. And then you would dig a hole as deep as the root ball. It could be as wide as you want. You can just fill it in, but just that deep. And you're going to put it in so that it's even with your other soil. Tamp it around, water well, and then maybe put some mulch down around it. Real simple. And especially if you've never grown herbs before, or especially if you're working with children or older people, this is a good way to go because automatically you have a garden. And herbs are also great in containers. Very popular to have a kitchen herb garden, and you can have it in pots. Remember, if you're putting it into a pot, it needs good potting soil. Check for the exposure so you don't have too much sun or too much shade. Check on water, especially if it's a plant, and like last week, the heat we had in the valley, it might have to be watered several times a day because remember, you don't have a lot of dirt for it to draw moisture from the other areas. And you may want to move the pots around in the summer if it's too much sun. Nice thing about having an herb garden in pots is that you can pull it closer to a sheltered area in the fall and the winter, and you can have herbs all year round. Fertilizing, if it's in the ground, you probably don't have to, or just the regular fertilizing. Let's say that it's around the border of your flower bed or your vegetable garden. Whatever fertilizer you do to that, it's fine. But if it's in a pot, you definitely want to fertilize it because the water runs through so frequently. Just get a good commercial fertilizer, follow the directions, and you'll be in great shape. And indoors, it's a little more difficult indoors, but it can be done. I've seen people who've had beautiful greenhouse windows and they had just rows and rows of beautiful herbs all year round. You just have to have enough light. What'll happen if you don't have enough light, it gets long and leggy. And so that kind of tells you need to move it somewhere else. It needs the drainage, because all potted plants need drainage. And just make certain that you, oh yeah, and a grow light. Those are kind of expensive, but if you really want that inside, grow lights are great to have.
Okay, question and answer time. I don't see any questions in the chat box right now, but if you want to take a second and type one in, we're ready and waiting for you.
Here's one I've got. Can I throw one out, please?
Oh, great.
Okay. I was in the nursery today and I was looking at what they were calling herbs. And there were some things that I really didn't think were herbs. What is the definition actually of an herb? Anne, Terry?
Well, again, that's something that you would use in for teas, beverages, in your food. That's what an herb is going to be used for. They're usually
it's that green leafy part.
Green leafy parts, exactly. And they're very fragrant. Not to say that you can't use them in your planting beds or anything else, but they're usually used for culinary purposes.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll go back to questions in a little bit later.
We just got one here. It's for Diane.
Okay.
She says, how long will the herb plant last? How long will the herb plant last? Well, it just depends. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that in a little bit, about annuals and perennials, to let you know how long a particular plant is going to last you.
Okay. Oh, lots of questions are coming in now.
Yeah.
Actually into the chat too.
Well, while we're looking for more questions here, let me tell you a little bit about our free publication that we have. See a little bit about it here. It's a really nice little booklet. It's called Herbs in Your Garden. It is a great guide to let you know about many different herbs and their common botanical names, their life cycles, the plant parts that can be used, and also descriptions, how you grow them, and some culinary tips. Now, with a little more information on books and publications for you, we have Diane Bartlett from the Stanislaus County Free Library.
Okay. And Diane, we can see your name, but you're not on camera. Do you have a way to turn on your camera?
I'm not on camera because I was frantically trying to put myself into my herb garden.
No worries. Yeah. No worries. So, carry on. We're good.
So there I am in my overgrown mint.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Anne, for allowing me a little bit of time here to talk to your folks. I have to say that the document that you just showed is just a super fantastic resource. I have mine still from when I took the class in person, however long ago that was. So it is fantastic. Lots of great information, really wonderful. So yes, hi, I'm Diane. Yeah, I'm Diane from the Stanislaus County Library, and I'm here to remind you of another great resource, which is your local public library. We are closed to the public, but we continue to make physical material available through our curbside pickup. You can use our online catalog to place polls, and then when you're notified that the item is available, you can go down to the library and let them know that you're there during their service hours, and then you can pick up the item. And you can also return items now to your local libraries during the service hours. Some of those examples of those physical books include The Beginner's Guide to Edible Herbs by Charles Smith, Grow Your Own Herbs by Susan Belsinger, and The Cook's Herb Garden by Jeff Cox. But Since we are taking a virtual class, we're going to highlight some items that you can get through one of our ebook apps. It's called Hoopla. And I'll mention that, how you do that later, along with our other app, Cloud Library. So these two titles, and the first one you can see on the slide, I picked them because they happen to be a little bit newer, and they appeal to me as a novice, very novice gardener. This first one, the Kitchen Herb Garden, came out in 2019. It has a really great introduction that talks about how to design an herb garden. And then she divides the book into two parts, and she has appendices and references after that. So the first part is an encyclopedia format with information on how to grow and how to prepare each herb. The second part focuses on the kitchen part of the title. So it has recipes and for meals and for spice blends. The appendices also discuss planting and maintenance, as well as how to deal with pests and diseases. She has a really extensive list of books and websites at the end of the book, and I love the full color photos. The other thing that impressed me about this book is that she credits various people for their experience in growing and cooking herbs. It's not just what she's done, so I really like that about that book. So if we go on to the second book that I have for you is the Kew Gardener's Guide to Growing Herbs. And the Kew Gardens are in London, and so they have sort of given their blessing to this book. And just a plug for going and doing online tours, you can go on to their website and take a look at their garden. So it's kind of nice to do. This book is also a 2019 release, and this one is different because it centers around projects that you can do with the herbs, so not just cooking. It does have an introduction to growing and design, and then she talks about her 12 projects, such as how to grow vertical gardens, how to create herb oils, how to dry herbs. She does have some guides for working with herbs and food, but she also talks about how to do topiary and make different kinds of breeds. She includes details such as the Latin names and the attributes such as height and sound, and she has suggestions for how to use, grow, and harvest the herbs. There's too many H's.
Yep.
It has a troubleshooting section to discuss pests and diseases. And then she ends with a seasonal to-do list, which I thought was quite helpful. She has, again, many color photos, but she also has some illustrations which really give it a kind of a homey kind of feel. So how do you access these? So on the next slide, this is how I access them. This is Hoopla. This is one of our apps that we use to access our e-books and e-audiobooks. When you go on and use Hoopla from a PC or a Mac, this is what you see. However, you can use Hoopla and Cloud Library from a variety of electronic resources. And how do you sign up? Well, you go to our website, www.stanislauslibrary.org, and sort of at the top, it'll say About Us, and it says e-resources. And it's a drop-down box. So if you click on that, you'll see selection. And after that, you would click on downloadable audiobooks, or you can click on where it says digital movies, music, and TV. Those two links will bring you to the Hoopla instructions for how to download on your computer, on your smartphone, on your tablet. So I'm not going to go into the details, but it's step by step. So I also mentioned Cloud Library. That's another way that you can get electronic books in book form and in audio form. So also under e-resources, you can access that instructions for Cloud Library by clicking on, it'll say eBooks and audiobooks dash Cloud Library. So all you really have to remember is stanislauslibrary.org. Look for e-resources and it'll give you all the step-by-step details. But what you'll have to have in order to sign up, you'll have to have a library card with Stanislaus County, and you'll have to know your PIN, which is the last 4 numbers of your phone number. That's all you need. But if you have questions or want to talk to somebody and get step-by-step instructions by a real person, well, we're there. Again, just check out the website, stanislauslibrary.org, and we can help you. I'm going to give you the number for the Modesto branch, although there are 11 other branches that are staffed with library folks. But the Modesto number is 558-7814. If you don't have a library card at this time, since you can't visit the libraries, we are issuing digital library cards, and also on our website, if you scroll down, there's a link that says digital library card, and you can fill out a little form and get a number that will allow you to access Hoopla and Cloud Library.
And Diane, maybe we can send out, when I send out the email to everybody after class, maybe I can include a link to the library with some of this information. That way people don't have to try to look it up.
Super, that's super. I see that there's things popping up in the chat and the Q&A, but yes, I will make sure and get that information to you, Anne.
Great.
And maybe I can pop something into the chat as well, just so that people have it right away. I will just kind of conclude by saying we thank you for having us here and partnering with us and allowing us to talk with you. As part of our program, we have a summer reading challenge. So if you read any of these books, you can fill out a summer reading challenge, adult. It's a form for the summer reading challenge, but do the adult one. It's a little review sheet. For every review sheet that you turn in, you have a chance to win a $25 gift card. And so the more that you do, the better your chances. And if we get to 200 reviews, some librarian might get a pie in the face. So read the book and review.
That's always fun.
Do we get to choose the librarian?
Make sure you give us the link so that we know to send that to everybody. That would be great.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you.
We really appreciate having this partnership with the Stanislaus County Library. And like you said, there's so many branches. And so it's good to know that you can check things out online or in person. So Terry, are you ready?
All right, all righty. So let's take a poll.
Thanks, Diane.
Yes,
you see
thank
a little
you,
poll
Diane.
pop up on your screen. We want to know, have you ever grown an herb? And have you ever grown a spice? Go ahead and click on your answers now.
Okay, these are all herb growers in the group. Wonderful. Look at that.
All right, I'm going to share the results here. Can you see them?
Oh, look at that. Look at all those herb growers. And a few of you have grown a spice, and I bet it was cilantro.
There are, yeah, for sure. All right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about annuals right now. Annuals are herbs that live for 1 year or less. They can be grown either from seed or transplant. You need to plant these after the danger of frost has passed, which is usually sometime in mid-March. Annuals, again, they live for about 1 year or less, but sometimes here in the Central Valley, they last a lot longer than a year. Plant failures. No, sometimes those plant failures just aren't your fault. You may have a beautiful basil plant that you've nurtured it, let it grow, and keeping just happy. You've pinched off a little bit here and there and used it in your spaghetti sauce, whatever, and then it's gone. Just up and dies on you. It's an annual plant. Annual plants usually die after a year. So things like your basil, your cilantro, and dill will die after seed. Yes, bro.
And sometimes it won't even last one season. I am a cilantro failure. I admit it. So
I am a failure with dill for some reason.
Her name is Ro, and she.
I'm a cilantro failure. Yes. Moving on. Sorry about that.
So yes, this is normal. Bolting. Bolting is something that happens when the plant wants to set its seeds. This can happen prematurely when there's a change in weather. So let's say you planted your plants and it was 60 degrees and it's getting happy, and suddenly you have a spike in your temperature up to 75, maybe for a day or two. But your plant is suddenly deciding that, hey, it's time for me to set my seeds. So up come these little shoots and look like they're going to have seeds. Basil, cilantro, and parsley are notorious for this. You can slow down this process, but you can't stop it. To slow it down, you want to just pinch off the tops where the little flowers seem to be coming up. That'll help it stop from the bolting, so you still can use your herbs and they still have their best flavors. And now we're going to talk about some of those annual herbs. Here's our first one, which is basil. Basil is a favorite of mine. I absolutely love it. Just pinching off a leaf and smelling it is just wonderful. It comes in many different varieties. We have things like Thai basil, Italian basil, purple ruffle basil, which is just absolutely gorgeous to look at. It's used a lot in Mediterranean and Asian cuisine. I like to use, of course, basil in my spaghetti sauces or pesto. You can use it in all sorts of different things. These plants do get tall, about 1 to 2 inches, 1 to 2 feet tall. They like full sun and regular water. Chamomile. Chamomile is a beautiful little plant with these tall, spiky little flowers, little yellow, I call them sunshine faces because that's what they look like to me. They grow about 1 to 2 feet tall, and most people know about chamomile, using it for tea to help them relax or whatever. German chamomile is actually, I feel, is the best for using for teas. They like full sun, and if they're in the ground, they like moderate water, so you don't have to use a lot. In a pot, you're gonna have to water them a little bit more often. Word of caution though, with chamomile, is that if you are allergic to ragweed, you might want to keep the chamomile out of your garden. You can have the same kind of allergic reaction to chamomile as you do to the ragweed. And I see here there's a question to use the flower or the leaves for the tea. You use your flowers mostly for the teas.
Okay, my favorite herb, and it really is cilantro or coriander. They use the leaves and the seeds. Once again, the herb and the spice. The nice thing about cilantro is the soft stems. You don't have to pull the leaves off. Let's say if you're chopping it up, you can use the whole thing. It has good flavor. It breaks down easily. It's not like you're chewing on a stem, a stick or anything. It's it's easy to work with. It might bolt, and if it's in my garden, it will die. Partial shade, regular water. Love it in just about everything. If you're going to cook with cilantro, remember, put it in at the end if you're going to use it, because it will, the flavor will dissipate very, very quickly. But it's wonderful in a salad or on a sandwich. If you haven't used cilantro in lots of different ways, try it. Dill. Everyone loves, or most people love, dill pickles, but the smell is so wonderful, and you use those little fronds and all of that. Also, if you've noticed there, the swallowtail butterfly larvae will be in there. And of course, you know what larvae do, the hungry caterpillar, you know that one. Okay, he eats, but remember, it's not going to eat that long or that much. So if you're planting dill by seed, plant a couple extra. Just decide that you're going to pay back to the insect population. Full sun, regular water, and dill will reseed itself, and it can stick around your garden, especially if you don't have a lot of cold, which we don't in the Central Valley, for a pretty long time.
Oh, sorry.
Oop, 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 oop. Parsley. Okay. Parsley. Okay, I was going to say, wait a minute. Okay, can't miss parsley. It's one of our favorites. There are several different kinds of parsley. There's the curly one that you always saw on the plate, decorating the plate. I never quite understood why they did that, because, you know, you kind of throw it. And then there's the flat leaf, which is also called Italian parsley. Both of those are wonderful. Parsley is one of those things that's fun to grow, especially if you're growing them with kids, because it grows quickly, full sun to partial shade. Kind of, I would say, don't have 100% sun like we had last week. If you can possibly, maybe someplace that gets a little bit of shade, regular water. But, and it says to soak the seeds overnight before you plant, or you can even buy it as transplants. In fact, that's what I was looking for today, to show you the plant ball, but the nursery was out of it. In spring, the nice thing about parsley in the Central Valley is it will last for several years. And I was saying to Ann and Terry when we were talking that I had the mother of all parsleys. I swear, I finally had to pull it out. It was so big, and I kid you not, the root stems were like this big around. So if you like your parsley, it can stay around for a long time.
So annual care, things you can do to kind of keep your annuals happy. You want to pinch back your young plant stems for plants that are getting leggy, which means their plants are getting like real skinny, spindly little branches on them. So you want to pinch those back to give them a bushier appearance. And when you're first planting them, you want to water them well, which means around here, especially during the heat, you want to make sure they get watered every day, and sometimes maybe twice a day, depending on if they're in a pot or not, until they're very well established. And let's see if we have any questions about annual herbs.
Got lots of them.
Lots of them. What does regular water mean, Alicia asked, excuse me. Regular water just depends on the plant. Usually you want to water, good test is to put your finger into the soil, about up to 1 knuckle. If it's moist, it doesn't need water. If it's dry, you're going to need to water your plant. So you want to water it regularly, check it every day, and make sure your plants are doing okay.
Great. It looks like somebody was asking about their parsley and why they have white spots on the leaves.
Yes.
I think it would be best, I'm not sure if Nina is local, but she could drop off a sample to our office so we could take a look at it. You could also send us a photo. If you're not in our county, then you could find out your local master gardener, and I will send an email out to everybody with a few bits of information after the class, and I will include a link to find your local office. So that's a great way to find out what's going on with your plant.
I see Laura has a question about adding fresh, she says, I would appreciate any comments and advice on adding fresh dried herbs to fresh goat cheese. She makes fresh goat cheese.
Wow.
Adding any kind of herbs to cheese is really nice. I would suggest with goat cheese, you can try Tarragon is a really nice one to go with goat cheese, or even garlic chives.
Yeah.
Just need to chop them very finely and take your cheese and mix it in really well. So you need to make sure that it isn't refrigerated. It has to still be in a soft form. And then you could form it into a ball and make a really nice, wonderful snack. What else do we have here?
Nina's in the desktop.
Okay.
Somebody did ask about rooting plants in water and propagation, and would we recommend first purchasing like a transplant? And I think purchasing a transplant is a great way to go if you're a beginner. If you do root things in water, and they, for example, you could throw some mint in a glass of water, you'll get those little roots. It's not true for all herbs, but then once you plant that, think about how susceptible that plant is to just drying out and dying because it's been in this water environment. So if you do, go ahead and plant that into a little container. Keep an eye on it and keep it moist. And it looks like some questions are being put in the chat box, so we might be missing them.
Right. Well, there was one about when to plant. When is the right time to plant? The spring and the fall. They wanted a kind of a month idea. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I see that. So you can plant herbs and anything else anytime, but if you're like me, I just started, I love Mexican sage. It's not an herb, but I had to have one, and it wasn't ready until June 1 because they're really susceptible to frost and they grow slow. And so I have been watering that plant morning, afternoon, and evening because it's in a full sun spot. So if you do buy herbs now, just be aware that you may have to really pay attention to them and water them. And then remember, depending on their life cycle, they may be done after the warm weather is over and it starts to get cool. Rachel wants to know, would you suggest planting cilantro or dill from seeds and what time of year? Spring for dill, and cilantro can be planted from seed in fall or spring. Somebody else asked about trimming, and we're going to be talking about that later, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, how do we do? Did we catch up on everything?
Pretty close.
I think we had a question about planting herbs in containers. She's not sure if they're too small. This is Erin.
Oh, okay.
Is there a way to tell how big the containers should be?
Yes, so you need to, the best way to transplant any kind of plant or herb is to move it up one container size. So if you have an herb in a 6-inch, the next biggest size is probably an 8, and then after that is a 10. And so you never want to move a small plant into a large container because you may not be able to water it well and it'll just sort of float around in there. Great question. Taylor asked, where would we be able to contact you to send photos and ask questions?
Oh.
Great question. And those of you in Stanislaus County, at the end of the email I'm going to send, I will have where to do that, but also I'm going to go ahead and type that into, or well, no, I can type it into the chat box as well. And then also on that email that you received from me, if you're not from our area, you can send it, you can find your local branch. About a week ago, a gentleman asked me how to grow mangoes. And I was like, well, I'm not sure. Where are you writing to me from? And he was writing to me from the sunny state of Florida. And I'm not sure how he got a hold of us, but it's always best to contact your local program because they will have the best local information for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move that over there and let Terry and Ro take it away.
Well, real quickly, Johnny wanted to know about sweet marjoram, and it's used a lot in like stuffing. It's very good, I would say, with squashes. If you're going to bake squashes, it's one of those that doesn't take a whole lot of water and a lot of sun, so it's a sturdy little plant. And when you get the booklet, the Herbs in the Garden booklet, there's a whole section about the sweet marjoram. So Johnny, thanks for the question and good luck.
Righty, we're going to talk about perennial herbs right now. Perennial herbs are those herbs that live for 3 to 5 years or even longer. I have a sage right now that has been around for, I'd say, 7 years. With good care and taking care of it and repotting and making sure it's got enough soil, your plants may last even longer than 3 to 5 years. You can plant them from either seeds, in springs, or transplants at any time. And again, if you're going to plant seeds in the spring, you want to make sure it's after the frost. Perennials can become leggy or woody. So, you know, you'll see the herbs at the top and you'll see that they would look like branches and the woodiness at the bottom. And they'll need some pruning and maybe even eventual replacement because sometimes you'll get more wood than you will herbs. You want to prune your perennial herbs lightly in March and early April. And just give them a nice little trim to try to give them a shape. especially if you want to keep them in a certain area and you don't want them overcrowding everything else. Just give them a light pruning to give them a good shape and help them to grow better.
Okay, that's good. Okay, one of my favorite topics are the invasive and aggressive perennials. If you live in a subdivision or say a farm or something like that, you don't have to worry too much about that. But if you're near a large ag land, if you're near native environments, waterways, you need to think about that because some of these are invasive. And invasive means that it's going to cost money to someone. In other words, it's going to have to be cleaned up in some way, and it's going to cost money. And if you notice on that slide, it says $82 million a year to manage the invasive pests. And one of them is Ann's favorite, fennel, and she has a very good story about growing fennel, which I've never had that kind. Yes, you want to tell it quickly, Ann?
Yeah, like many of you, I was a child gardener and up to all kinds of trouble, and somehow I got a fennel plant. And I just thought it was amazing, and I was, who knows what I was doing with it. But my next door neighbor came over one day, and they were like, we have this plant all over our yard. And they had a really big lot in front of their house, and it was full of stands of fennel. And I was like, oops, that's my fault. I had planted it right on the other side of the fence. So
I love it.
Just be careful with that one.
Yeah. And the aggressive herbs are the ones that'll just grow everywhere in your yard. Mint is very popular doing that. Lemon balm, oregano will also grow everywhere in your yard. It'll take off. A lot of the herbs will. If you don't want, see, I like mint. I keep it in a pot because it will take over the world. And as Ann makes fun of me, I don't call them aggressive perennials. I call them assertive perennials because they will. But I love oregano. I just put it out underneath my rose bushes and it just goes crazy. And when I need some oregano, I just go out and pull a little bit. It doesn't bother me. But you just have to decide of what your level is. If you don't want it everywhere, then keep it in a pot.
Okay, so how do you use herbs? Let's take a poll.
Okay.
Do you use them in a tea or beverages, fresh, dried, frozen, decorative arrangements, bath salts, or potpourri? Go ahead and put in your choices right now. And this is multiple choice, so you can put more than one in there.
Yeah, this is a really fun survey to see how people use herbs, and I feel so boring because I don't think I've tried that many of these things. But I was really into making my own teas at one time and drying them, and then I would decide, oh, do I think this one's better fresh or dried? And normally I felt like the fresh tea was really the way to go. I don't know about.
I agree. I like fresh.
We're fortunate in the valley in that we don't have heavy frosts. And so many, we can have fresh herbs so much of the year, as opposed to having to rely on the dried.
Okay. So we see our poll here. Our winner seems to be fresh, which I think most of us do. And we've got coming up second is dried. So a lot of you seem to use dried herbs. Probably you buy them off the grocery shelf, and maybe you're lucky you get to dry your own.
All right.
And even few potpourri people.
Yeah,
excellent.
Remember potpourri in the 80s?
Those are my people.
Neat. Very nice. Okay, let's talk about some of these fun herbs. Bay laurel, usually it's transplant. It can become a really large part of your garden. So decide where you want to put it because it can live for many, many years, and it's like a little tree. Just remember when you're using it in cooking, and I know you all know this, but don't forget to pull it out because you can choke on it. Because when pull those leaves off, they're pretty tough, and there is a choking. And of course, like it says, full sun, part shade, moderate water. It's an easy one to grow and fun. Chives, a slight onion or garlicky flavor. They grow in bunches. You need to divide them every once in a while. It says every 3 or 4 years, or when you decide you have too many in one area. The flowers are used, are edible, delicious in many dishes. Chop it up. Let's say you don't have scallions, green onions, you can always use chives in place. And they're talking about the goat cheese or any kind of cheese. Of course, we all know it's wonderful in cream cheese or any kind of creamy cheese. Full sun, regular water, and it will live forever. Fennel. My personal favorite. I love fennel in minestrone. I like it raw in a salad if you've never tried it. The bulb is what I use. Slice it, stir fry it, or like I said, put it into your minestrone. It is an invasive one, meaning it can cause problems in neighborhoods. I've never had that problem, but it's a wonderful, wonderful taste. It's kind of a licorice taste, but not strong. Full sun, moderate water, and as you can see, it's a wonderful place for those larvae to live. So like I said, if you're planting, plant a couple extra so that the caterpillars have a home too.
Lavender.
Right, people have been getting excited for this one, Terry.
Oh yeah. No pressure there, no pressure at all, right? Lavender, of course, is one of our favorites. It comes in many, many different varieties. I have 3 of them in my yard right now. My white lavender is absolutely gorgeous. I never thought, and it has just as good an aroma as the purple varieties. It can grow 2 feet tall. It can get quite wide. Needs very well-drained soil. It does not like to have its feet wet, which is one of the reasons it has a hard time in pots sometimes, because the pots don't drain well enough for the lavender to be happy. They like full sun, little to moderate water, and that's when they're in the ground. You do need to water them a little bit more in pots, but again, you need to remember not to be too wet because they don't like their feet wet and they will not be happy at all. Lavenders are great in all different things. We talked about potpourris. You can use them in jellies, in baked goods. I've used some lavender in a pot of beans. It gives this wonderful, unique flavor to it. High Coat and Munstead are 2 of the favorite varieties for using in as a culinary use. You can use others, but these are the preferred ones.
And looks like we've got a question. Can lavender be divided? Mine is huge. Unfortunately, the answer to that is no. I have a really big one in my garden, and I had thought about that at one time, and I thought, man, I can't see anywhere to cut it where it would have more roots. And so it's a real bummer.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, eventually in the future, we should do a propagation class so we can talk about some different plants and how to propagate them using, you know, some kind of cuttings or, you know, seed that for some that are difficult. So that could be a fun class if you guys would be interested. And Nancy says she recently discovered lavender lemonade.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay, I've got to laugh about this one. It's not funny, but I understand it. Real quickly, let me just, someone I just lost, maybe it was in the chat room, excuse me, gals, but she said, how do I look after lavender that's planted next to my roses? Of course, my thing is very carefully.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck.
There might have been some questions in the chat box that we missed, but no.
I think we're good.
Somebody had asked for a good source for herbs, and that's kind of tricky for unusual ones. And my best thought is to Google it and look for, you know, online seed catalogs.
Big seed catalogs like Renee's and that type of thing. They have a lot of unique ones.
I've also got a question from Johnny. Can Spanish lavender be used in baking? I wouldn't suggest Spanish lavender. It doesn't have the same taste or anything as the Munstead or the High Coat. It's the way it opens. It's got a different, I have to say, grainy texture. When you're trying to use it in cooking, it just doesn't give the same flavor as the others.
And I've moved it back to lavender quickly because there were a couple of questions about it. And the thing about lavender and any plant is that when you first purchase it and you need to establish it, that's when you want to keep it regularly watered. And somebody was asking, what does that mean? And it's essentially you don't want the pot to get too dry or too wet, but that little root ball that Ro was trying to show you, the moisture can be sucked out of it when you put it into a pot with potting soil or you put it into the ground. So you're trying to keep that moist. Now, once lavender gets established, it will not be happy if you water it too much. Lavenders in pots die very easily because people keep them too wet and they don't have enough drainage holes. So I hope that helps.
Okay, moving on to lemon balm. This is one of my favorites too. Again, this is one of our assertive herbs. It will get everywhere if you're not careful. They are very hardy. I've had one that wasn't looking too happy. It'd been in my pot quite a while. My husband took it, divided it, stuck it in 2 little pots. It just looked like a bunch of sticks standing up. Put some water on it, and I've got 2 big lemon balm plants now. So they're very assertive. They're very easy to grow. They have a wonderful aroma to them. They're great for putting the leaves into water. They call it spa water. It just flavors the water very nicely. They do like full sun to partial shade and regular water. In the really hot heat that we get here, if you have it in a pot, you will need to move it into a little bit of shadier areas. They like it it makes them a little happier.
Yes, like Terry said, it's assertive, and I got into trouble as a teenager for planting this in my grandpa's yard because he was like, let me show you something. And I had planted it near the fence. He showed me the other side of the fence. Mm-hmm. All over. And I was like, oh, yay, more.
Lemongrass. Lemongrass is one I do not currently have in my yard, but I'm trying to find a place for it right now because it's a wonderful plant. It can grow 3 to 4 inches, 3 to 4 feet tall, about 3 feet wide. It stems and the leaves are used in a lot of Asian dishes. It's very frost sensitive, so you want to make sure that you plant it in a place that's kind of sheltered, close to a wall or near some other plants where you're going to have some shelter during any kind of frost. They like full sun and very regular water. You can divide these and make bigger plants, which is really nice. You can start with one, and as they get older and bigger, you can divide them up and add to your lemongrass growth. Just use some caution. The leaves are quite sharp. Lemon verbena. I have a lemon verbena right next to my front door, and when it's getting bigger, you can walk by it and you brush against it, and you have this wonderful lemon smell that comes up at you. It can get quite tall. I've had mine about 5.5 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. It can get leggy, which again means you're gonna get these big old fronds that kind of come out and hang over everything. So you can trim it as you want. It's also a frost sensitive plant. So make sure it's got some kind of shelter around it. I've used the lemon verbena in teas. Again, it's to flavor waters. And you can also make a wonderful lemon verbena jelly from it. So remember, full sun and regular water with your lemon verbena. So now we're going to have another little poll. We want you to answer in the chat box. We want to know what's your favorite herb and why. Go ahead and type your answers in there now.
These are terrible questions too, by the way. How could anybody just have one? So
exactly.
Obviously, we didn't do a poll where you had to click just one. And since the chat box is a free-for-all, some of you might write 25 in there. I don't know. But if you've ever had, curries or stir fries, lemongrass is amazing in those. Cilantro is fantastic in tacos and burritos and salads, and basil is great on pizza. Lavender, I've even had with shortbread. So it's kind of crazy all the stuff you can do.
So far in the chat box, we've got thyme. We've got lots of people who love basil.
Yeah.
And mint, chocolate mint, Thai basil, lots of
rosemary.
Rosemary, lavender.
I'm with Diane. Basil because it's easy to grow. Yes.
Yep. Oregano.
Yeah.
Lavender for fragrance and tarragon for flavor. Lavender, mint because of the smell, and it can be used in many different ways.
And Vicki, our Stanislaus County librarian from Modesto's favorite is mint.
Okay, all right. I see our cheese maker, Laura, likes thyme, which would be very good in her cheese also.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
it would.
yes.
Mm.
All right. I think we're ready to move on.
Yep.
Okay. Here we are with mint. Okay, remember, it can take over. If you don't want it everywhere, put it into a pot. There's lots of different kinds of mint. There's a chocolate mint that actually is chocolatey. Looks like chocolate. There's spearmint, there's peppermint. Just decide what you want to do. It can be used in cooking. I don't think I've ever had a tabbouleh that doesn't have mint in it, which I love. And it needs a lot of sun, partial shade, regular water. It'll grow anywhere. That's not a problem. Rosemary is wonderful in that it's a beautiful plant as well as it's a wonderful herb to use. I like to take the heavier stalks of rosemary, branches, and use it as a skewer for vegetables or for meat. I use chicken usually or fish, and it gives a really nice flavor to whatever you're grilling. It can live for many years, and it can go everywhere. Also, it's kind of a assertive one also, but it's lovely, and it gets a pretty flower on it. Full sun, little to moderate. It's one of those Mediterranean plants that just loves the hot sun in this valley.
And I see there's a few questions in the chat box, which it's better to have them in the Q&A, but luckily we can see them. Nancy's asking, when do you harvest? Are there uses for flowers? And Suzanne says, doesn't it grow slowly?
The rosemary?
Yes.
No, I don't think rosemary grows very slowly. It seems like it can, if it's in the right place.
Maybe.
What?
Maybe medium, but yeah, it really can get big, and you've got to prune it back.
And I think it depends on the variety too.
You turn your back on it, and it grows a little faster than you thought.
I don't know. I've never used rosemary flowers before. Have you, Terry?
I haven't, but they can be used pretty much the same as you use the rosemary itself.
Yeah.
It has the same smell and everything else as the rosemary.
Yeah, I've seen them in soap, but I can't remember seeing it in any food, but that doesn't mean it's not used.
Yep.
Sage. We always have a little bit of sage in that Thanksgiving dressing, it seems like. It's one of those that is just very delicious. Years ago, I went to a restaurant in Sebastopol, and they served fried sage leaves as an appetizer. I would not go to all of, yes, it was really very good. If you're going to try something like that, remember, anytime you're frying something, you all know this, make certain you get all the moisture off of it, or it can make the fat fly on you, and I wouldn't want you to get hurt. It can get woody. It can last for years. I have a sage plant out in my yard right now that every time I roll the wheelbarrow over it, I think, oh, I've killed it, but I haven't.
You roll the wheelbarrow over
it stays. Well, you know, around it's kind of spread, and I flip it back, but it keeps spreading out. It's wonderful taste. I like it with like squashes and that type of thing. Full sun, partial shade, little to moderate. It's one of those hardy ones. If it goes through my wheelbarrow, it's got to be. Oregano. There are many varieties of oregano. It's used in lots of cooking, Asian, Latin American cooking, Mediterranean cooking. And like I said, it's one of those that can go over your whole yard, or you can keep it controlled. Probably the most common one you'll find is what they call the Greek oregano. Again, the stem you wouldn't really want to eat, but it's an easy one because the stem is almost wiry. Clip off your oregano and then just strip the leaves off of there, a quick chop to release the oils, and it's wonderful in a lot of things, including that goat cheese. Boy, I'm really interested in that goat cheese. Tarragon, find it a lot in French cooking. I like it in a marinade with olive oil and maybe a little bit of garlic. Crush up the tarragon leaves. And then put that on partially cooked vegetables. Let it sit in the refrigerator overnight. It's a wonderful salad in summer. It's also beautiful in the garden. A lot of these are. So you say, I don't have space for a herb garden, but maybe in your flower bed or in your vegetable garden, or of course pots on your patio or balcony. They're just beautiful. Use it fresh or dry, salads. It's got a little bit of a licorice flavor too. Many of these spices, or excuse me, herbs do have a bit of a licorice, but it's not strong. Full sun and little to moderate water. It's another one that likes this valley. And thyme, again, there are many different kinds of thyme. And it's a beautiful one in a garden also as a landscape. And it's also dual purpose. You can go out and grab some thyme leaves when you need it, but you still have a cute plant out there. It's beautiful as a border. It will kind of creep. I've seen it in rock walls. They put it and it kind of creeps around there. I love it. And as it says, soups and stews and poultry, full sun, little to moderate. It's another hardy one for this valley.
Okay, let's look and see if we have any questions about perennials.
And I had been answering a few questions. Maybe I answered too many of them. I was thinking there was going to be so many more, and then I thought, well, why am I answering all of these? But I don't think there was anything about the last couple of herbs here. Here.
Okay, I love this one. I just found it from Nina. She says rosemary is all purpose. You can stuff a chicken, use it in Italian food, season a pork roast, make tea, and rinse your hair.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, that's wonderful.
That's
Thank you so much. I didn't know that.
Oh, and sniffing, they say sniffing rosemary too helps sharpen your memories.
Ooh, you know, I think rosemary is my favorite.
It's also good for your brain, yeah.
It's so good on
Very
chicken.
nice.
Yeah.
And Suzanne says you can do the same with sage. Thank you.
Great ideas. My mom was just telling me that back, I don't know if it was the 50s, putting beer in your hair was the thing.
I remember that. Yep.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah. You'd let it get.
Mayonnaise. I might have done that. Yeah. Well, when you're 13 and somebody tells you your hair will grow
I'd rather
faster,
have the beer. And you can also drink it.
You'll do anything. No, I was only 13. So, no drinking for me.
Your goats like it. Aww.
Oh, goats are so cute.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple. Are there any other questions?
New questions?
Let's see.
Favorite use for chocolate mint? What's your favorite use for a chocolate mint, Terry? Tea?
I like it in tea.
Okay.
Chocolate mint's got a great flavor in tea.
I bet it would go good on top of chocolate.
Yeah, anything goes good on top of it.
Yes, yes.
Oh, somebody's asking, does anyone infuse honey? You can use herbs to infuse honey. You can also use these herbs to infuse vinegars for salad dressings. We talked about chives earlier, even chive blossoms can be put into vinegar, and it gives it the chive flavor into the vinegar. And if you use the garlic chives with the pretty pink flowers, you even have a gorgeous pinkish lavender colored vinegar.
Nice.
So a lot of them you can use for honeys and vinegars, and even oils. You can make infused oils.
And Hannah has a good question for you, Terry.
Okay.
Are there herbs that don't grow well together if I decide to grow them into one pot?
I haven't run into too many that really hate each other.
But watering needs. That would be the big thing in sun.
You want to make sure they all have the same type of watering needs. And I wouldn't put too many members of the mint family in the same pot because they're going to fight each other. They're all going to want to take over. So you might want to put some chives maybe in a pot with a little bit of a small oregano or some thyme, and they'll work together. How about you, Rose? Are there any ones that you usually use?
I would just, you just want to make certain that if it takes moderate water, you put the moderates together. And that way you have successful growing, because if you have a low water and a high water, something's going to have to give.
Right.
Yeah. And the sun, the same thing. You know, too much sun, not enough sun. Gay has an interesting one, and I don't know where Gay is, but she's saying it gets really cold here in winter. Will the perennials survive this weather? You have to know if the, you know, Gay, where are you located?
You might have to write that into the chat box.
Yeah.
If not, you could just tell folks about our area, Ro. For Stanislaus County, if the herbs are going to survive the winter.
She's in Clear Lake.
Clear Lake. Okay. But the ground doesn't freeze there, does it? It doesn't get that cold.
So most perennials will survive some frost and cold, even a little snow, depending on the herb, because many of them they'll look like they're dying, but they'll come back when the spring comes back.
And we did have
Low 20s, she says. So yes, low 20s. They should be fine. We occasionally get to the low 20s here. And if it's in the ground, it should be fine. If it's in a pot, you can always bring it into a more sheltered location, or even bring it inside to keep it okay.
This is so interesting. I see Gail is from a high elevation, which of course makes it different from where we are down below sea level almost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about high elevation gardening. Do you, Anne?
We do have some fantastic Master Gardener programs there.
Okay.
Clear Lake, what county is that? If I knew the county, I could tell you.
No, this is Gail. I don't think Gail is Clear Lake. That's Gay who's Clear Lake.
Oh. Well,
I'm
also,
jumping around.
one of these questions looks like it's for you, Ro. From Suzanne, do any of you keep a sprig of a fresh herb in a vinaigrette?
I don't.
Oh, really?
I mean,
Maybe Terry does.
I mean, yes, in a vinaigrette, I'll use them all the time in a vinaigrette. I was thinking of vinegar, you know, like a bottle of vinegar. Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were telling me all about
Tarragon.
that.
Yes, Tarragon is wonderful. Chives, of course. It just depends on what you like in the way of flavor for your family. But always in vinaigrette, I use the fresh leaves. It's very good. Even, it just depends on what are you eating it with. Kind of decide that. And but I think, like I said, my favorite is probably tarragon in a vinaigrette.
We did have one more person ask about white spots on parsley leaves, and that's the second person. So Lori, I actually know Lori. She might not remember me. I know she's a part of the Fun Strummers, or she was, the Stanislaus County group that plays the ukulele.
Okay.
And Lori, you can email us and show us a picture of your parsley so we can get down to the bottom of your problem. So I'm going to give you that address.
Okay.
How did we do on the questions?
I think we're pretty good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit about common pests. If you're a gardener, you got to come across insects. There's no way you're going to get around it. Some of them are very beneficial, and some of them are just out to eat your plants. So you want to be on the lookout for such things as aphids, caterpillars, spider mites, snails and slugs, and whiteflies. Right now, I've been dealing with the whitefly infestation on my zucchini and my yellow squash. And one of the things I learned as a master gardener is a nice shooting it with a spray of water helps get rid of those whiteflies. It takes a few times, but we're getting rid of the whiteflies, but it's keeping the beneficial bugs that are there to eat the whiteflies keep coming back as well. The ladybugs, their larvae, we've got a few other very beneficial insects. So you always want to think twice before you want to get in there and get rid of all the insects. There's some there that are really there to help you out. And also remember that stressed plant attracts pests. So if it's not being watered well or taken care of, it's got too much water, the pests, it's a perfect environment for many different types of pests. So keeping your plants healthy and happy helps keep the pests away as well. Gardening questions? I know you probably do have some. Go ahead and give us a call. Here we have our phone number. You can contact us here, or you can fill out our online survey at the link that's showing here. And we will answer your question either via email or phone, whichever you prefer. Or you can also visit the IPM UCANR EDU site for answers to your pest questions.
Okay, we talked about this a little bit before, garden design. Basically, it's you want herbs that have the same water and sun requirements. If you're going to plant them, say, in a pot or on a border, you don't want to spend all the time and energy and money, either from seeds or transplant, and putting these things in, and then half of them dying because it's not in the right place. One of the really good things about the herb guide that you're receiving, they talk a lot about this. And sometimes you just might have to kind of try things out. But sage, oregano, thyme. Okay, FSLW, full sun, low water, easy, okay? Catnip, chamomile, and fennel. Remember, watch that fennel. It takes full sun and moderate water. And things like basil, dill, lemongrass, they like full sun and regular watering. Again, the guide will tell you what kind of watering and kind of put them together, either in your pot, in your border, or if you're using it in your vegetable garden, or you're just making your own herb garden, your cook's herb garden. So I'm excited to see. I hope you'll send some pictures to us. I'd love to see what you're doing. Oh, and page 1 for additional designs.
And Ro, did you mention we're emailing this out to everybody?
No, I didn't. I don't know if Terry did or not. Okay, congratulations. You're getting this, and it's a wonderful guide for planting, even for ideas for cooking. Not that it gives you recipes or anything, but it'll say, this is good if you've never used some of these herbs before, or you're trying it for the first time. And again, herbs are one of those fun things to do with kids. If you've got young people in your house or in your neighborhood that you're growing things with, because take a bucket of water out with you, clean water or a basin, snip off, rinse it off, and let them taste it. This might give you they may find a whole new palette of flavors, and they'll just, especially the mint, that's always exciting with kids, and parsley. Then we go on to Terry.
Yep, we've been growing our herbs for a while now, so now we want to harvest our herbs. With our annuals, we can harvest up to 3/4 of the plant. This is because most annuals don't come back. They're done at the end of the year, so we can harvest a little bit more of them. Our perennials, we want to harvest no more than 1/3 of the plant at any one time. This allows it to keep growing and providing us with herbs well into the future. When's the best time to harvest our herbs? You want to harvest them usually in the morning, right after the dew dries. You want them to be still fresh and happy from the nice cool mornings, especially around here in the afternoons where the plants are starting to droop a little bit in the heat. That brings all those volatile oils, that extra flavor is being drawn away from the leaves that you use because they're just trying to keep themselves cool. So first thing in the morning is the best time to harvest your herbs. And also, if you want your herbs to taste their best, you want to try to harvest your herbs before the plant actually produces flowers. Except, of course, for lavender. Lavender, you use the flowers. This way, sometimes when the plant flowers, it causes the herbs themselves to have a bitter taste, or maybe not as sharp a taste as they normally would have because they've been using all their energy for the flower production. But we do want to think about our pollinators too. So if you do harvest them, try to leave some of those little flower shoots that are coming up and leave them just for our pollinator friends. Freezing herbs is one way we can use herbs, and what am I trying to say here? So we can preserve them. Freezing is a nice way to do it. It's an easy way. I don't think the quality is quite as good as fresh or dried, but it does in a pinch. You can put them into an ice cube tray, put a little water over them and freeze them, or you can actually make pesto out of your basil or some of the other plants and put them in the ice cube trays. I know Ro does this quite frequently. And then pop them out of the ice cube trays, put them in the bag, and you have pesto all year round. Drying herbs. This is the way most people seem to think of when you want to harvest your herbs. I love this picture because it's absolutely gorgeous. My herbs, when they're drying, never look quite that happy. But you do want to hang them upside down in bunches. You don't want the bunches too tight because you need a little bit of air circulation around them. If you're drying something like the cilantro that has already started to seed, and you want to save those seeds for your coriander so you have your spice, you want to take a paper bag, put it over the bundle, so the seeds will fall into the bag instead of just falling on the floor. Same thing with lavender blossoms. If you're drying lavender, if you put a paper bag over the top, sometimes the little blossoms will fall off. This will keep all those in there. You can also dry your herbs in a microwave. It's a little tricky. You got to really watch it because they'll get crispy critters very quickly. You can do it in a conventional oven. Dry them on a single layer on a sheet tray at 95 to 105 degrees. And just kind of check them frequently for doneness. You want to make sure they're crispy and they don't have any give to them, and then they're done. Same thing with drying your herbs, hanging them upside down. You want them nice and crispy because if you harvest them and try to store them in a glass container or a plastic bag, whatever you want to put your herbs into, if there's any moisture left in those herbs, it will cause all the herbs in your container to mold.
Terry, I got a question about herbs. Can I ask it real quickly?
Of course.
I think you mentioned one time that you use a dehydrator for herbs. Is that correct or not?
That is correct. I do use a dehydrator. I needed to mention. Thank you, Ro.
Okay.
Dehydrators are another wonderful way to dry your herbs, especially if you don't want them hanging for weeks. Most herbs, depending on how thick they are, sage is going to take longer to dry than, say, thyme. But you put them in there and it can be done anywhere between 8 and 24 hours, depending on the herb. Instead of hanging, I've got lemon verbena that's been hanging because I ran out of room in my dehydrator. And it took 2.5 weeks for it to dry properly. So
in a dehydrator?
No, out of the dehydrator.
Okay.
Dehydrator, it took 8 hours. So 2.5 weeks versus 8 hours, yeah.
And Terry, Suzanne has a question for you about drying. Shouldn't the bunches be separated, not smooshed together, as in the drawing? Ooh.
That is true. That is true.
The drawing
is pretty though.
But you are definitely correct. You want to have room between them because you need air circulating around them. Same thing with tying them in their bundles. You want to make sure it's not too tight. They've got some room around the leaves and everything so the air can circulate so they can dry properly.
Great.
Ooh, tea time.
I know we've all been talking about tea. It's one of our favorite ways to use our herbs. You can use either the fresh or the dried herb. Here it gives you 2 tablespoons fresh or 1 tablespoon dried per cup. I like to put my herbs in those little silver balls that you can use for loose teas. That way I don't have little things floating in my teacup. Put them in there, steep it for 5 minutes, bring the ball out and just smell that aroma. Peppermint tea, one of the best things in the middle of the winter. Kind of just makes you feel all warm and cozy inside. Chamomile tea, of course, for calming your nerves and making you feel happy. Lemon balm is just wonderful taste. Oregano, yes, oregano makes a wonderful warming tea. And lavender I can't say enough about lavender tea. It's just wonderful. And you can also do these as an iced tea as well. Just steep your tea and pour it over a glass of ice. And there you go. You've got a nice, cool, refreshing drink.
Good. Sounds good. Okay, Terry, we've got a few questions that have come up. Okay. What herbs would work well under roses? What would you plant under there?
Well, considering, you know, having to harvest your herbs when you're around roses can be a little tricky. So I would stick with something that's kind of, number one, likes the same amount of water as your roses do. And number two, something that kind of stays low to the ground. You can use nice thyme is good underneath your roses. Maybe a little oregano. Oregano is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've even done chives under my roses. Actually,
yep, because roses take sun. Yep.
Right in the front of my roses. It's a nice little row there. Come out there, and so those are some of the ideas. But just make sure you want to have the same amount of water for your herbs as you water in your roses.
Right. Linda says that her Thai basil flowers all the time. Does she need to keep cutting the flowers off?
Yes. My basil does the same thing, especially, again, fluctuations in the weather is going to cause it to do that. Just keep taking those flowers off the top. They are edible too. You can eat the flowers if you want to. You can use it the same way as you use your basil. So you don't feel like those flowers are going to waste every time you pick them off. You can use them. But yes, you're going to have to keep taking those off if you want to keep your basil keep bushing and keeping the flavor of your basil where you want it.
If lavender blossoms have dried on the plant, can you use that in tea?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Rob?
Yes. If lavender blossoms have dried on the plant, okay, can you use those dried blossoms in your tea?
Actually, drying when they're on the plant themselves and they dry, it's not the same as drying them on your own, because when you take the fresh blossom off the plant, it still has those oils, all the oils and things in there that's going to make the flavorful teas. If it's dried on the plant, all those oils are gone. It's basically a dead flower. It's not going to have the same flavor as it does if you take it off the plant when it's still alive and dry it.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Terry has a great background in herbology, or whatever you want to say. So she's always a great person to ask these questions to.
Right. Okay, Anne, how about you touching on proper pruning techniques? Because I know you are very good at that. And it says, close to the roots?
Pruning is supposed to be an art and a science. And after you've given a plant a terrible haircut that it doesn't grow out of, you learn that. So it looks like Leanna wants to know how to cut. So let's talk first about something like basil or another annual. You're wanting to use it in such a short period of time and get the maximum amount off of it. So let's say you had a plant and it has these really big stalks. I would look for the ones that are, finishing. So let's say it's got this flower on it, and you don't want to leave a stub, but cut it down, not too close. I would give it something. Think about branch as still needing to photosynthesize and live. So leave it a couple little leaves. If it's an annual, you can pinch it just using your fingers. You have to be careful if you've just planted it. You could pinch it and pull the whole plant out of the ground. Who's done that before? Come on, you guys. You're like, oh, whoops, oh yeah, I just planted that a couple weeks ago. And then, something like rosemary and any kind of perennial that we mentioned, you want to prune those in very early to mid-spring so that they'll grow back. And each time you make a cut, make sure it looks good and you're not leaving this big woody bare spot. And always think about this plant that it still needs to keep growing. So I hope that answers the question.
Good. Nina said that Hamlet said rosemary is for remembrance, which we talked about earlier. How did Shakespeare know this? Well, you've got to remember, early medicine was herbs. Now, whether it actually does for remembrance, but herbology is one of those things that has been around for centuries.
And it looks like there was still one more question from Annette about spider mites that keep damaging my indoor plants. Oh, Spider mites can be very pernicious, very persistent. They multiply. The other problem is if you've got a really big infestation, they can move from one plant to another. The crazy thing about spider mites is they will move on dust. And so they're very, very small. And so if you're sweeping around and making a lot of dust, this was really embedded in my mind at my first job at a nursery. The owner got really upset with me because I was using a push broom around the houseplants. And I was like, what did I do? And it's because if you stir up a lot of dust, you can spread spider mites. Now, if you're in a situation like a net and you've got a real bad infestation, you can look for a less toxic pesticide. I mean, first you can always, of course, take it outside, hose them down really well. Don't leave them out there or they will fry because houseplants do not like to be in full sun. So you can try that. And then you can look for something that's a less toxic pesticide like a horticultural oil or soap. Just read the label, use it the way it's directed. And I wish the best of luck to you. It used to be if I found anything with spider mites on it, I threw it in the trash immediately because I just didn't want to deal with it. So you'll have a battle on your hands. Don't give up and keep monitoring every week. You might even want to get a little loop so that you can look and see them. So best of luck, Annette. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Well,
I think we're all caught up with questions.
I think we are.
Hey.
I hope everybody had a really good time on this presentation. And I will just say one more time that we hope that you will take our survey in about 3 months and let us know how we did and help us improve the quality of our program.
please.
I think somebody, oh no, I saw somebody raise a hand. That might have been on accident. I don't know. I just want to thank Terry and Ro because they are so generous of their time and providing us with great information. And I just really appreciate the time and the commitment they took to struggle using Zoom because it's always got its little hiccups. We'll talk about that. So thank you. And to everybody, tomorrow I will be sending out an email and what it will have in it is your herbs in the garden publication that you can print. Yes. A link to find your local Master Gardener program if you're not in Stanislaus County. And then another link that's the Ask the UC Master Gardener Stanislaus if you have a question. Ro and Terry, did I leave anything out that I should be putting in this email?
Nope.
I think you're doing a great job.
All right, thank you. And if we missed your question, we apologize, but now you know how to get in touch with us or somebody from another county. So thank you all very much, and we hope to see you in August. Stay tuned for a date on our fall vegetable gardening class. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Now I just have to figure out how to stop this, you guys. Oh, here we go. End. Okay, bye-bye.